it's Lisa. Today I want to show you a new product that I got from Queen & Company. Queen & Company is one of the companies that does the awesome shaker cards, and I've done a video in the past for their Mother's Day kit, and now today I'm going to bring you the Hocus Pocus kit. And this was actually just released, I think, last week. And it did come rather quickly. It only took a couple days for shipping. It is the Hocus Pocus Halloween bundle, which I actually got the more expensive bundle because I ended up getting not only the kit, but also some extras, just some extra foam and shaker pieces and extra paper pad. So I'm gonna go through what is actually in the kit. And so if you just buy the regular kit, this is what's included. So it comes with this paper that shows you everything that the kit comes with. There's some sample cards and a sample scrapbook layout on there. And then it also has the contents of the kit. So there is a 6x6 paper pad. So let's get that. Here's the paper pad. And they are 6x6. Let me go ahead and open this up. Okay, so we've got stripes. There's like a rich yellow, a purple, black, and gray striped paper, and they are double-sided pages. So we've got like a purple plaid, some polka dots, green and black, and then this is fun. It has a haunted house, some witch feet, a witch hat, and the gray, the purple, the yellow, the green, the black. And then we have another green stars, purple and white, more polka dots, gray, some orange colors. Oh, I really like that. That reminds me of candy corn. I love that polka dot, those polka dot colors. Here's like a starry sky color, some gray stars on some black paper. I really love that one as well for Halloween. And then a yellow stripe. And then it just repeats itself. So I think there are probably three different sheets maybe of each one, I think is what I'm showing. Yeah, there's 3 of each. No. Yep, 3 of each one. So there's the paper pack. So 16 styles, 24 papers, 3 sheets of each, 8 double-sided papers in the 6x6 paper pad. So the standard kit includes that. It also includes the foam shapes. So here, these are the foam shapes to make your shakers. And there's 3, it looks like there's 3 of each one. So there's a witch's hat. I'm not sure what some of these are. There's a Hocus Pocus jar, looks like a potion jar. There's a square shape that has a trick or treat saying for it. There's a, looks like it could be a crown. I'm trying to see what they have for theirs. Looks like the skirt for the bottom of the skirt for the witch. There's a broomstick. So each one comes with 3 of the shaker elements. And here are the dies. So here are the dies. So there's actually a trick or treat sentiment on a square, and that actually becomes a foam shape. And this is the foam shape that matches that. There's also this really neat, it's like an oval shape with the word spooky, which has a foam shape to match that. So they have all these dies that you can include. The witch's feet, these are so super cute. And the nice thing about these dies is that if you do run out of foam, you can just use these on regular paper, and it doesn't have to be a shaker card. You can use these to decorate a card with just regular die cut pieces. But you can also, if you have extra foam, you can use these dies and make your own foam pieces for shakers. Okay, so it includes that. It also includes a stamp set. And the stamps are Happy Halloween, everything's better with a little magic. A haunted home is a happy home. If you can't fly with the big girls, stay off the broom. Halloween greetings to you. Don't make me flip my witch Don't make me flip my witch switch. A witch is just a queen with a pointy hat. That's cute. If the broom fits, fly it. This wicked witch can be bribed with chocolate. That's cute. Witches gotta stick together. Witches brew. Drink if you dare. Sending spooky greetings. If you've got it, haunt it. So comes with the stamps. And then of course it comes with the shaker pieces. So here's some yellow shaker pieces, some purple. They look almost like little squares in the shaker bits. And they have all these different Halloween colors. All these colors match the same colors that are in their paper pad. So again, they look like just little squares. And these are super cute. These little star shaped. So there's like a black star shape. There's a silver and there's a purple. And there is a yellow. And there's an orange. And then there are these miniature little stars in the yellow, the black, and then we have the silver and the orange and the purple and the green. So that comes in your basic kit. And as I said, I got the extra pieces to go with it. You know, you can never have too much. So it came with a whole other set of the shaker bits, a whole nother Hocus Pocus 6x6 pad, and then it also came with a whole nother set of the 3 foam and the acetate. And when I did forget to mention that the initial pack does come with the acetate pieces to cover your shaker bits. So, and then this is the Halloween foam refill. And they sell all this stuff separately, so if you wanted just to purchase the pad, you can do that, or just the shaker bits, or just the foam refill, you can buy it separately. But I chose to buy the refill kit, which was all of this extra. So that is the unboxing of it, and I can't wait to make some cards with it. And I almost forgot to show these. These were, looks like a little thank you gift that they put in the box. And these are just little bat shaker pieces. Those are so cute. So I'm sure I'll be using those. Those are super cute. So just to give you some prices, the complete kit that I purchased, which was the kit with the extra foam and the extra paper pad and the extra shaker bits, that was $64.95. And if you just purchase the kit itself without all the extras, that's $44.95. And the kit that I purchased that had all the extras, I believe I got a discount on it. But I'll put all the links down below so that you can see in case you want to purchase. So for this first card, I'm using an A2 size black card base, and you can see the pattern paper here. I just cut that top layer slightly smaller than the A2 size. I am using a foundation die, a couple of foundation dies from the Foundation Dies 2-pack from Queen & Company, and I'm cutting them out of the cardstock that you see there and just layering it on the card. So adhering the circle with the glue, then I'm going to stamp a Happy Halloween stamp with my VersaFine ink. I'm also using my Misty to stamp that out. And I'm going to heat emboss, so I'm using some embossing powder here in the green embossing powder. And then I just take my heat tool and I heat emboss that. And the embossing powder that I'm using is called Christmas Lights. It's actually from Sparkle and Sprinkle, which they went out of business, unfortunately. But it's really nice, sparkly embossing powder. I think it was perfect for Halloween. I'm also using some banner dies from the Foundation Dies, and I'm going to cut out that sentiment, and then I'm going to adhere these card layers onto the front of the card. So I used the witch hat die set that came with the set, cut it out of black cardstock. It actually comes out in 2 layers. It comes with the inside layer as well as the outside border. Here I'm taking the foam piece, just taking the inside foam piece because I don't need that. I could save it for another project or just use it as foam dimensionals in the future. And here I'm just applying glue to the back of the black cardstock witch hat and applying it to the center of my circle, and then taking the backing off of that foam shape and applying it to the circle as well. Adding some shaker bits inside. So next you have to peel off the top layer of the foam shape, and it is a sticky piece there, and you're going to take the acetate shape that matches that foam shape and apply it directly to the top of that foam shape. And here I'm applying it with some liquid glue, and I'm using Tombow liquid glue to apply that. It dries clear, so it's very nice. And then I'm using another banner die from the Foundations dies from Queen & Company, and I'm just adhering the white stamped image onto the black layering die and putting some foam and attaching that to my card. Next, I'm taking this die that came in the die set. It's a piece that covers the witch hat, just kind of like a little accent piece, and I cut it out of the yellow cards or pattern paper and attaching that. And then I'm taking some of these gems, these are Queen & Company gems, and just applying them randomly to the front of the card. Next, I'm going to create the inside for the card, and I just took a piece of white cardstock, cut it down slightly smaller than the A2 size of the card, and then I'm using my MISTI to stamp out a sentiment from the stamp set, which has got to stick together. And I am just using a black ink for that, and then I'm going to adhere that to the inside of my card. And here's the final card. I think it turned out super cute. And the inside, which has got to stick together. So for my next card, I'm using a piece of black cardstock, and I cut it down to a 5 by 5 card base, and the pattern paper is slightly smaller than that, which is 4 7/8 by 4 7/8. I'm also using this glitter paper. It has adhesive on the back. It is Queen & Company. It's almost like a contact paper, and I'm going to be using that as well as my Trick or Treat die, as well as the self-adhesive foam sheets from Queen & Company, which I cut this Trick or Treat die out of the orange self-adhesive foam. And now I'm taking that contact glittery black paper and just taking the double-sided adhesive off the back, and I'm applying that in the middle of my pattern paper. When I apply it, I want to make sure that it is smooth, so I want to press it down really well, and then just cut off the excess there. And that is going to be my first card layer on my card. So here you see me cutting off the excess, and then I'm going to layer this right onto that 5 by 5 card base. And I'm applying it with the liquid Tombow glue, making sure to cover that really well, and then pressing that down on the 5 by 5 card base. Next, I'm going to take my foam shape, which is the square shape, and you don't need the middle, so you can put that aside. And I am going to center that foam shape by peeling back the adhesive backing and applying it directly to the center of the black. And then I'm going to add some shaker bits to the inside, using some of the colors that are already in the card. These shaker bits are so darn cute. They remind me of candy corn. Love these colors. So applying a little bit more orange here. And then I'm going to take the acetate piece, the square shape. I took off the adhesive top part, put the acetate on top of that, and then peeling back this foam adhesive backing and applied the Trick or Treat. Now I'm just tying a ribbon, and I am going to apply the ribbon to the top of my card with a hot glue gun. So here I'm just attaching the bow to the top right hand corner. And next I'm just adding some gems at the bottom left. Sorry, it's out of screen. There you go, you can see it. So 3 orange gems there. And then I am taking a piece of white cardstock, which I cut down slightly smaller than a 5x5 sheet. And I am stamping with my Misty the sentiment Halloween greetings to you using a orange ink. And then I'm going to apply that to the inside of the card with some liquid glue. And there is my card. So for my next card, I'm using the house die, and it also comes with the sun and the doors and the window pieces. And I'm using an A2 size card base in black. And I'm also cut down a piece of silver sparkly paper to fit right on top of that, a little bit smaller than the A2 size, as well as the pattern paper with the starry background and the green. The green I'm going to use to cut a little hillside grassy border using one of my dies. This is a die from Stamps of Life, and I will link that below. So I'm going to go ahead and I die cut out the hillside little grassy border. I am going to apply that to my starry background, and I'm also using another sheet of this contact sticky paper that I used in the previous card. And here's some of the colors that come in the pack. There's some pretty pinks and purples and orange and silver and red and the yellow. It is Queen & Company product. I have no idea what the name of it is because it's not labeled, and I will try and find it on their website, but last time I checked I could not find it, and if I find the link I will link that below. Using the yellow paper to cut out the moon, and I'm going to use that also yellow paper to cut out the doors and the window, and I used that black sparkly contact paper to cut out the house. So you can see that the windows, there's 2 different kind of window shapes. There's a rectangular shape, and then there's also a rounded shape, so you can really pick and choose which one you want to use. I'm going to be using my Tim Holtz Distress Black Soot ink to ink up the edges of the paper. So I'm just going around the edges with my blending brush, inking those up with the black soot. And then I am going to adhere my border, my grassy border, using my Tombow glue. I'm going to adhere that to my pattern paper. And once I adhere it to my pattern paper, there's going to be some excess which I'll need to trim off. And just press that down, make sure that's on really well. And then I'm going to ink up the bottom of that border, the green border. It kind of gives it just a little nighttime feel with that black ink on there. I'm also going to rub some on the top of that hillside. And then I'm going to adhere that layer with some glue to the silver layer, the silver cardstock layer, and then that will eventually get adhered to the black card base. Here I'm picking a stamp to use for my sentiment, and I use that same silver paper and cut out a banner shape using the foundation dies, and I am going to just using my Misty here to ink up that sentiment, and I'm using my VersaFine black ink. I like that ink because it puts a nice deep dark impression, so it's really nice. Here I'm just inking up again just to make sure it's on there really well. And then there you can see the sentiment. A haunted house is a happy home. A haunted home is a happy home. And then I'm using some embossing powder, just sprinkling that on and using my heat tool to heat emboss that sentiment. And then just put some double-sided adhesive tape on the back of that card layer. And I am going to attach that to the black card base. Next, I'm taking the house shape. You don't need the centerpiece, so save that for another project. And when you cut that die out, it comes with the background layer as well as the top layer. So I'm just kind of placing where I want that house to go. I don't want it to go off the edge of the card, so I'm just kind of placing it here to make sure I have it where I want it before I take the adhesive off to lay it flat onto the card. So here I took the adhesive off. Now I'm just applying it down, making sure it is smooth, pressing it down really well, and then I'm going to apply that foam shape right on top of that. But before I do that, I want to adhere my doors and my windows. So here I'm adding the door, just making sure it's fitting well within that shape, and the two rectangular windows that I cut out. Again, applying some glue to the back of that, applying those, making sure they are even and centered on that house. And then I went ahead and decided I wanted to use the rounded window, and I'm going to use that up towards the top where the chimney stack is. And then I'm just taking a black gem, adding it for the doorknob, and then I'm adhering my moon, taking the backing off of the foam sheet, or the foam adhesive, and applying that house foam shape to the card. Now I'm going to sprinkle in some bats. These are actually the free bats that I got, and some just crystal gems. I like the idea of adding those bats to the house because after all, it is a haunted house. So we'll put some bats inside. Then I'm peeling back the top piece of that foam. Remember, it is sticky, so now I'm just taking the acetate and putting the acetate directly over top. Now I'm peeling off the backing of that piece of black glittery paper and applying that directly to the top of the house. Now I'm taking some foam. This is the smaller foam that I have, some foam tape. It's not the actual thick foam that comes with the Queen and Company cutouts, but it is a smaller double-sided adhesive. So I'm adhered the sentiment, and now I'm just putting some of these shaker bits. These are the stars that came with the shaker pieces. Just adding some glue to those silver stars and adding them to the nighttime sky. And I'm also adding some glue to some of the bats, and I'm placing them around the card. Some in the grassy area, some on top of the moon, and some in the starry background. So here's the final card. I think it turned out really cute. A haunted home is a happy home with the bats and the stars, and love the little bats inside the house. And inside, sending spooky greetings. I did put some ink up. I did ink up the edges of that gray sheet before I added it to the card. For this next card, I am using the witch skirt and the witch shoes, and this particular die is the legs for the witch. And these are the pattern papers that I'm using, and I'm also using a piece of the black foam sheet from Queen and Company. You can see there in the background. This foam sheet is double-sided, and I'm going to be using the black for the witch shoes. I am taking a card base, which is a white card base of an A2 size card, and that is what I'm going to use for the actual card. And then I'm just here adhering the paper onto the top of that card base. That orange layer is just cut slightly smaller than the A2 size card base. And then layering on this black pattern or blackish gray pattern paper. You can see here the dies that I'm using to cut out the different pieces of the that I'm going to be using for the card. This particular piece, that little square you can see is for the shoe buckle, and I love how this foam is so thick and it's nice and sparkly. I love it for the shoes. So here I'm going to just start at the bottom of my card and work my way up because I want to make sure everything is positioned just perfectly on the card. So I need to start towards the bottom and work my way up. Here I'm attaching the legs, and I kind of tucked those legs underneath the shoes. So make sure when you apply your shoes to the card, you don't adhere them fully so that you can attach those legs and slip them behind. And then here I'm just attaching the skirt. I'm attaching the inside layer, and then I'm going to put the foam piece right on top. I took off the backing and just adhering that down. And then I'm going to add some of my little bits, my shaker bits to the inside of that card. And I'm going to pull off the top adhesive piece and to expose the adhesive, the top acetate piece to expose the adhesive. And then I'm going to apply the acetate sheet directly on top of that to hold those shaker bits in. Then I'm taking the die cut piece that I die cut out of the pattern paper, adhering some liquid glue and attaching it directly to that shaker piece. And then the small little squares, adhering those to the shoes, they look like shoe buckles, and then just applying a black gem to the top of those to add some more bling to it. And then I cut a foundation die out of the yellow cards or the yellow pattern paper, and I'm going to stamp a sentiment on that using my Misty tool. And I'm going to be using my VersaFine black ink to ink that up. If you've got it, haunt it. I think that sentiment is so cute. And just applying some foam to the back side of that sentiment. You can see the difference here between the Queen & Company foam and then the thinner foam that I used. The Queen & Company is obviously more thick. And then I'm applying just some bling here to the foundation die, the sentiment, one on each side, and there is my finished card. So for this next card, I'm using this potion shaker piece, and here are the pattern papers that I've chosen, and my card base is actually cut out of a purple cardstock, and it's an A2 size in A2 in size. And these particular pieces are cut with a Tim Holtz Sizzix die. I love the jagged edge around that die. It makes me think of something from Halloween, so I went ahead and used that, and I cut 2 pieces out. And I used the gray paper to cut out the potion jar. So here I am inking up some edges just with my black soot distress ink, and I'm doing that on all of these small paper, the polka dot paper, the green, and the purple, all of these card layers. And next I am going to go ahead and just kind of position where I want these layers on my card, and then I'm going to apply adhesive to the back side and apply those to my polka dot card layer. I just love this polka dot paper. It reminds me of just little, something coming out of the potion jar. That's why I chose that particular paper. I think it's so cute. So here just applying the green, and then I'm going to take that whole layer after the layers are applied to the polka dot and put that in my Misty because I want to position the stamp just perfectly. And then I'm going to add some black ink, put that on there, and then I'm going to add double-sided adhesive to that entire card layer and apply that to my A2 size card base. Then I'm taking my potion shaker piece. I pop the middle out, and I'm going to go ahead and use my gray inside piece of the die cut. That's going to go on the bottom base. So here I'm just putting some adhesive on that, and I'm going to stick that into the shaker bit, or just place it on the green layer. that's just kind of helping me guide where I want that shaker bit to go. So now I'm going to take the back side of that adhesive off of the shaker bit, apply the shaker bit around that gray piece of the insert from the die cut, press that down really well, and I'm ready to apply some shaker pieces to the inside of that, and I believe I'm using stars for my shaker pieces. So I've got some yellow, some purple, as well as some metallic silver stars for the inside shaker bits. And then I'm going to peel back the top acetate layer to expose the adhesive and put the acetate cover directly over top to hold those shaker bits in. Then I'm going to use my glue and glue down the die cut piece of the potion jar, put that directly on the shaker piece to cover up the white, and then using this little die for the top of the potion jar. There's also another die in this die set which I cut out of purple paper that matched the other purple paper in the card, and I'm going to adhere the smaller piece on top of the larger jar piece. That smaller piece, actually, it turns out it's for one of the pieces in the witch's broom, but I went ahead and used it here on this shaker piece. And here I'm just putting some twine with some glue dots, applying this to the top of that potion jar. And then I'm just taking some of this bling. I believe this bling is from Doodlebug that I've had in my stash. So I'm just adding some of the green and purple to some of the spots here on this card front. And then for the inside of the card, I'm just taking a Happy Halloween sentiment and I'm putting it directly on the inside card base, and that completes this card. For this next card, I'm using the spooky die cut piece and shaker piece, as well as a black card base cut down to an A2 size. And you can see that the yellow paper was cut down slightly smaller than the A2. And then this pattern paper, I used another one of those Tim Holtz dies with the jagged edge to cut that shape. I'm also using some foam, some of the black sparkly adhesive foam to cut out the spooky die cut. And this oval piece is the shaker piece that we're using for this particular card. I am inking up my edges with the black soot distress ink, and doing that on both of those pattern paper layers. And here I'm simply adhering the layers to the front of the A2 size card base. And next I am taking my spooky die cut piece and I'm just deciding if I want to use the yellow or if I want to put on the pattern paper, and I chose to use the yellow pattern paper because it shows up much better. And I'm taking the inside piece of that shaker bit and I actually had to stick it onto a yellow piece of pattern paper and cut it out because I didn't have an oval shape to die cut. So I applied that with liquid glue to the middle of this card base, and now I can go ahead and add some shaker bits to the inside of this oval shaker piece. Now I'm peeling away the top acetate piece to expose the adhesive and putting the acetate cover on top to secure those shaker bits, and then I'm pulling back the back of the spooky die cut and applying that right to the top of that oval piece. Now I'm just adding some bling to the top of this front of the card. And then I'm going to I cut another piece of the paper, the pattern paper, with this same Tim Holtz ragged edge die, and I'm distressing, well, I should say I'm inking up the edges of that. This is going to be for the center of the insert for the sentiment of my card. So I'm going to stamp out the sentiment using my Misty and some black ink, sending spooky greetings, and I'm going to put some adhesive on that and apply that directly to the inside of the card. Next, I'm going to take some twine. It's some yellow and white twine. I actually picked this twine up from one of the Queen and Company classes that I had attended at a Stamp and Scrapbook Expo. It was actually just some leftover from one of those classes. So I'm just putting some twine around the top, and I'm going to tie this in a knot. And then just cut off the ends. And that completes this card. For this next card, I'm going to be using the broomstick, and these are the two die pieces used for that. And then you saw there the shaker piece. And I'm using an A2 size card base, and this is an actual lawn fawn die that I'm cutting out twice. It's actually a scalloped border that I'm using. I cut it out once with the star paper to give me that insert, that square insert or rectangular insert, and I cut it out a second time using that purple pattern paper to give me the scalloped edge border. So here I'm just gluing down that scalloped border onto my A2 size black card base, and I'm taking the rectangular starry background insert and putting some glue on it and adhering it directly to the inside of the scalloped border. I went ahead and die cut out the pieces of the broomstick using some craft cardstock for the stick of the broomstick and the yellow pattern paper for the that bottom part of the broomstick. And I'm going ahead and taking this foam shape and kind of positioning it where I want it to go. I am putting some glue on the bottom of the insert of the broom and adhering that down into the foam shape to give me placement. So I'm actually going to take a piece of twine and wrap it around the broomstick. So what I wanted to do is I did not want to adhere that broomstick until that twine was underneath. So I went ahead and laid that twine underneath, went ahead then and peeled back the adhesive backing, and now I'm positioning that broomstick over the yellow die cut piece and pressing that down on my card. Making sure that twine is right there on the cracks there of the indentions there of that broomstick, because that's where I'm going to tie it. I'm adding some shaker bits to the inside, and I'm going ahead to peeling up that acetate layer off the top, and I'm putting down the acetate cover to secure those shaker bits. And then I'm putting my die cut yellow piece of the broomstick, adhering that with glue. And then I'm going to adhere the craft handle out of the craft cardstock, and I'm going to tuck that underneath the yellow. And then I'm going to tie, I'm going to go ahead and tie the twine around there to create a little bow. And then I'm going to cut off the edges of that, just snip that off. And that particular die right there that I used in a previous card, I could have used it to put a little decorative piece right there between the stick and then that bottom yellow part of the broom. But I chose not to use it in this card. So here I'm just showing you that piece that I used in the previous card, which is really meant to be used for this broom. So using my Misty, I cut a foundation die out of the silver paper that I used in a previous card, and I'm using the black VersaFine ink. If the broom fits, fly it. And I'm going to add some embossing powder, and I'm going to use my heat tool, and I'm going to set that embossing powder onto that sentiment. Put some foam tape on the back and peeling that up and applying that sentiment to the card. And then I'm going to take some of these star dies from the foundation die set, and I cut them out of some silver foam sheets, and I'm going to adhere those to my card. And then for the inside of the card, I went ahead and just put a sentiment Happy Halloween on some gray cardstock. And there is my card. For this next card, I'm using these colors that you see here on an A2 size card base. And I am actually going to be using the skirt from the witch for this particular card, but I'm using it as a crown. So here I'm just layering up these pieces, cutting the excess green off. I used a circle die to cut this circle shape out and just layering these on to the green and purple layer. There's the foam shape. So again, instead of using the skirt, I'm using it as a crown. And I'm using the purple foam to cut that out, to cut that die cut out. And the background of that foam shape is going to be that same purple pattern paper that you see there in the background. And that foam shape is going to go right there in the center of that card. So I'm adhering the foam shape down, and then I'm adding some glue to the inside background purple piece that's going to rest right inside that foam shape, pressing that down, adding some shaker bits to that, and then peeling the top acetate piece off, putting the acetate cover on, and then adding the purple foam die cut piece onto there. So the sentiment that I'm using there is a witch is just a queen with a pointy hat. I think that is so cute. And I'm adding that layer onto my card base. And I added some gems there just to add a little bit of bling. And now I'm just adding a ribbon around the top. This is just a silver shiny ribbon. And I'm going to tie that in a knot and then just cut the excess off. And here's the final card. So cute. For this next card, I'm going to be using the witch hat and the broomstick dies and one of the foam pieces. I'm also using a piece of the yellow cardstock for an A2 size card base, and you can see the pattern paper here that I chose. I'm also using this Lawn Fawn die that I had used in a previous card. You can see the card here that I used it. That starry background that's shown there on the previous card actually gave me that border that was already been cut out, and I just threw it in my stash. So now I'm able to pull it out of my stash and use it on this card. So I'm going to here just glue this down to my A2 size card base, and then with the striped pattern paper I also cut that piece out of that Lawn Fawn scalloped die, which gave me that perfect rectangle that fits perfectly right inside that border piece. This is the glittery paper that is from Queen & Company, and here I'm just taking the backing off and I'm applying it to a white piece of cardstock, which I'm then going to use my witch hat die to cut out. And you see here that the witch hat die, it comes into two pieces. You can actually use that bottom piece by itself if you wanted to, but I kind of like it with that border, so I am going to use it with the border. And then also with that glittery paper from Queen & Company, I cut out the orange accent piece for the decorative piece on that witch hat. Here I'm going to be using the broomstick foam piece, and I already took the backing off, and notice that I'm putting it in the same diagonal pattern as those stripes on the card, and then I'm just layering a piece inside here. Now this glitter piece that you see here, I actually decided in a few minutes you'll see that I decided to change it to a different color. I didn't like that glitter paper, so I wanted to change it up. But the die cut piece that I'm using, this hat, I'm just adding the glue to the back, and notice I'm just using the die cut on this witch's hat. I'm not using the foam piece. The only foam piece I'm using on this card is for the broom. So I'm just adding the both of those layers to that, actually all three of those layers to the witch's hat. And this piece already had the self-adhesive on it, so I'm going ahead and adhering it to the witch's hat. Now for the broom, here's where I decide
that no, I think I want to go with the orange. So I'm going ahead and cut a piece of that orange pattern paper out of the broomstick die cut, adhere that right on top of that glitter paper, and then add my little shaker bits into that broomstick. And here I'm going to go ahead and take off the top adhesive sheet to that foam piece, and then apply the acetate cover to cover up those shaker bits so they don't fall out. Now here you'll see that that end of that broomstick acetate piece, I don't need it, so I just cut that off, just snipped it off. And then I go ahead and take a piece of brown cardstock, just cut the handle of that broom and apply those pieces to the top. And this small little die cut that you see, I am giving it an accent to go across that broom, that part of the broom, and applying that little piece as you see. And then here I stamped onto white cardstock. If you can't fly with the big girls, stay off the broom. And I had to cut this paper down because it was too big for the card. So I just cut it down, snipped the edges off, inked the edges with some black soot distress ink, and I'm just gonna tuck it right underneath that broomstick, and I think it fits perfectly on that card. So now I'm just adding some sequins, some orange and black sequins there to my card to finish this off. And I think this card turned out super cute, incorporating both the foam shape and the die cut piece. And that completes this card, so I hope you like it. I think it turned out super cute. So for this next card, I'm using the yellow and the purple color scheme. I have an A2 size card base, and I cut a rectangular scalloped border there out of a rectangular scallop die, and I'm using 2 circle dies for the circle layers that you see there. One is a foundation die from Queen & Company that has a little scalloped edge, and the other is just a regular circle die. I did use the Witch's Shoes die, and I cut those out of the purple glitter foam, as well as the buckle for the witch's shoes out of the black glitter foam, and then a piece of the same yellow cardstock for the dot in the center of those witch's shoes. The whole purpose of this card is to show you that you can actually make a card using just the die set and not the shaker pieces, because there's no shaker element incorporated in here. I'm also using a banner die to cut out the white banner, and then I put a piece of purple cardstock on the back, and I'm just trimming it down just to give a little bit of a shadow layer on the back of that white banner. And I'm going to use the white for my sentiment, which I'm going to stamp with my Misty with some purple ink. If you've got it, haunt it. And then I'm going to glue that down onto the black or the purple shadow layer and adhere that with some foam tape to the bottom of this card. And then just apply some sequins, some little to add some bling to the front. I think this card turned out super cute. Again, notice no shakers added, just regular die cuts pieces were used, and I think this turned out super cute. For this next card, I am using a 5x5 card base in purple, and the pattern paper is cut down to slightly smaller than a 5x5. I'm also using the Trick or Treat die, and I'm also using this candy piece from the Candyland kit from Queen & Company. And I used that candy die cut to die cut 4 of the candy pieces in the orange pattern paper, and I'm just placing them on my paper in random positions and then gluing them down to that layer. And the centerpiece is going to be the back side of the orange piece, also cut out from that die cut. But when I put the centerpiece down, I'm actually going to put it on the back side, so you see the reverse of the orange pattern paper, which is the polka dots. Then I'm simply going to cut off the excess after I've glued it down. You can see there's some excess there, so cut that off. And then I'm going to adhere that layer to the top of the 5x5 card base. I did cut out a square on white cardstock from a square die, and then I put the square foam shape right on top of that and am adding the shaker bits as well as the Trick or Treat die cut piece from the purple pattern paper. I peeled back the acetate to expose the adhesive, applied the acetate cover, and now I'm gluing on this Trick or Treat die cut piece. I love the little shaker bits on the inside. They remind me of candy corn. I love those colors. And that finishes this card. For my next card, I'm using the purple and the yellow paper, as well as the potion die cut, as well as this die cut piece from the Stamps of Life, which is a dotted background. And I'm going to cut that dotted background out of the yellow cardstock, using both of these die pieces as you see here to cut that background. And I'm also going to take that large rectangle die and cut it out of the purple paper, which is going to give me the background for the yellow paper. And once you cut that out, you can see the two pieces that it gives you, and it actually gives you the confetti that you see here, which you can use for your shaker bits. And then I'm just going to apply glue to that layer and apply it to the background of the purple layer. So that's just attached with glue, and then I'm going to take this gray paper and I'm going to cut a circle out of that for the background of the potion jar. I'm going to adhere the circle with glue to the piece of cardstock layer that you see here, and then apply the double-sided adhesive to the gray card base. And then the foam shape, I went ahead and used the die cut to die cut a piece of that pattern paper, as you see for the background of the foam. And then another piece of the black and starry paper to cut the outline. I'm taking the inside of the foam shape and I'm just tracing this around a yellow piece of cardstock so that I can have a background for my spooky die cut piece. And then I'm going to attach the oval shape directly to the card layer so that it has that nice solid background, and then apply that spooky layer with just some liquid glue. Then I'm going to apply the foam shape to the circle piece on my card, and then put the background piece right in there with glue. And then I'm going to take the shaker bits and apply some shaker pieces into it. I am using the confetti that came out of the die cut piece of the dotted background die. I'm also going to add some other shaker elements in there as well. I chose some of the stars, the metallic stars that came in the kit. Then I'm peeling back the adhesive layer and putting on my acetate cover to keep those shaker bits inside. Now I'm just adding some glue to the layers there to finish off this shaker piece, and adding some twine to the side, which I am going to tie in a knot. And I really like the way that this card turned out. I think it's super cute. So that finishes that card. For this next card, I'm using an A2 size black card base and applying this polka dot paper right onto the top of the A2 size card base with some liquid glue. I am going to be using a dotted oval. I cut out using a die from the Stamps of Life, the dotted oval shape, and applying it with some liquid glue to the front of the card. I am using the foam shape of the witch's skirt. Here I'm taking out the center, and I am going to make this into an upside down witch. These are going to be the legs for my witch. I'm cutting out my own legs rather than using the die set that came with the set, because the die set legs are rather small. And I also cut a piece of the pattern paper for the witch's skirt, as well as for the shoes. I cut out the black foam. Here I'm just applying the witch's legs. The witch's legs are about 2 by 2.5, and here I'm just kind of placing everything on the card the way that I want it. Here I'm going to go ahead and attach the foam shape and the center cutout of that foam shape, and adhering those shoes to the legs. And then I am going to add some sequins. Actually, before I do the sequins, I'm adding the little buckles on the shoes cut out of silver foam. Now I'm adding the sequins, which is the purple stars, and adding the acetate cover to keep those sequins inside of that foam shape, and adding the cover to cover up the white on the foam. I did cut out that buckle die with some yellow pattern paper and just putting some glue in there and filling in the little dots in there with the yellow pattern paper. I did cut out the sentiment using 2 Lawn Fawn dies with the black and the white cardstock, which layer perfectly, and the sentiment, adding the sentiment to the top of the card. And here I'm adding a Happy Halloween sentiment for the inside layer of the card. I think this turned out super cute. For this next card, I'm using an A2 size card base in black and the decorative paper that you see here. The green paper is cut down to 2.5 by 5 3/8. The yellow paper, same 2.5 by 5 3/8. And then the gray pattern paper is cut down to 2.25 by 5. So here I'm just layering on these pieces onto my A2 size card base with some liquid glue. And I am using the broom foam piece in this card. So here I'm taking out the centerpiece and taking off the backing and applying it to my card. And I cut out the broom with the broom die cut, a yellow piece of yellow cardstock, same yellow cardstock as used with that layer that you see there. Adding my sequins to the inside. And then peeling back the top acetate cover. And then putting on the acetate cover to cover up those sequins. Here I am applying the die cut piece from the broom as well as the broom stick and tucking that underneath. And I am applying the small little decorative piece onto the broom, and I cut out the sentiment using 2 scallop dies from the Stamps of Life, and I'm applying those with some foam tape to the top of the card, and then just finishing this card with some bling, adding just some black bling here to the front of the card. The inside is also cut with a piece of yellow cardstock and the sentiment Happy Halloween on the inside. So for this next card, I'm using the Trick or Treat die, and I'm also using a banner die from the foundation pack from Queen & Company. You can see the papers that I'm using here. I am using an A2 size card base in white and a piece of orange paper. Cardstock cut slightly smaller than that A2 size shape. I am using the square foam shape to use with the Trick or Treat die. Here I'm just layering some of the pieces on. So I'm starting with the banner shape and adding it to my orange background piece. I did cut a square out of white cardstock because I will need that for my foam shape. So I used a square die for that. Added that to the card, applied the foam shape onto there, and now adding the sequins shaker bits inside. I love these colors together. Again, it reminds me of candy corn, and I love candy corn. So here I'm just applying the Trick or Treat die cut that I die cut out of the gray pattern paper, adhering that with some glue to my acetate cover. Now I'm applying some twine, adding some twine to the top, tying it in a knot up there at the top of the card. And then I'm going to finish this card off by just adding some Queen & Company sequins. I actually picked these up at a Queen & Company workshop that I attended that I had some leftovers. So I thought they would added a perfect touch to the front of this card. And there's the final card.
Okay, so I made 15 cards with the kit, and this is what I have left over. I have a bunch of scrap pieces, not really enough here to make another card with. And these are my shaker bits. There's still a good amount of shaker pieces left. If you recall, I did use 14 of the shaker foam pieces, and there are actually 21 foam pieces in the kit. So there are still some foam pieces that I did not use. So if you are purchasing this kit, I do suggest you get another paper pad. I did have to dig into my second paper pad in order to finish some of the cards, and also recall that I did use my own cardstock on several of the cards, some solid cardstock, as well as some of the foam pieces from Queen & Company. So there were some extra things that I did incorporate into it. So again, if you are going to purchase the kit, go ahead and get another paper pad so that you can finish it off. I do have these extra shaker bits, which I'm not going to do anything more with them right now, but I will save them for future Halloween cards. I really enjoyed this kit, as I do all Queen & Company kits, and they are so easy to put together, as you can see. Very, very simple, and they're so darn gone cute. So I just want to go through the cards that I made one more time. The trick or treat, Halloween greetings to you, everything's better with a little magic. I really love this card. Happy Halloween. And then we have spooky, sending spooky greetings. And we have another trick or treat. I didn't put anything on the inside of that one. We have a happy Halloween with the witch hat. Don't make me flip my witch switch. Happy Halloween. A haunted home is a happy home, sending spooky greetings. If you can't fly with the big girls, stay off the broom. Okay, didn't add anything to the inside of that one. I really love that one. And a witch is just a queen with a pointy hat. Everything's better with a little magic. Happy Halloween. If you've got it, haunt it. Trick or treat. I love that. Looks like a bunch of little candies inside of there. And then this one is spooky. Didn't add anything in that one. And then I have if the broom fits, fly it. Happy Halloween. And then this is the one that I did without the shaker. If you've got it, haunt it. And that's it. So which is your favorite? If you'll comment below and let me know which your favorite is. I don't know, I'm thinking I think my favorite is, I really love this one. And I really love this one. So those two. And I also, let me see, I also really love that one. So I think these three are my favorite. So just let me know, comment below, let me know what you thought, and let me know what your favorite was. And I'm going to be putting all of these up on my Instagram page, so make sure you follow me up on Instagram at Lisa Mears Card Designs, and subscribe to my YouTube for more tutorial card making videos. And until next time, bye bye. Thanks for watching.